Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Touch Conversation. My name is Dawn Bennett with Touch Remedies, and I'm joined today by my friend Katherine. She's the owner of Inspired Vitality, which is based in Minnesota here. Katherine is an inspirational speaker and holistic health coach who specializes in supporting those affected by cancer. So I'm super excited to have you with me today, Katherine. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. We so appreciate it.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit. You're here today to help us offer a little bit of insight on your touch experience with physical contact during your cancer.
Absolutely. Yes, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer in 2015. And backstory, I'm an affectionate person. My kids are subjected to hugs and kisses on a regular basis. So I am normally an affectionate person, but definitely when you're going through a medical situation, that can change things. Yeah.
How did it change for you? Like, what about it shifted?
So there's so many things when you're going through cancer that you can be impacted by touch. There's, for example, you can have sensitivities in terms of you might be going through chemo and you might have medications that are causing you to have nerve sensitivity. You might have surgery and have stitches, or you might have surgical drain tubes, and you need to be cautious about touching people, whether it's risk of pulling on drainage tubes, or it might be simply that people are afraid to touch you because of what you've gone through. So when you are a cancer patient, there's so much involved in touch. There's also the fear involved, where people might be afraid to touch you, again, because of perhaps surgical scars or physical changes that you're going through. And then from the patient side, there's might be concerns with being touched simply because, in my case, for example, there were times when I didn't want to be touched because the emotions were running really high. And I knew that if someone gave me that hug that made me feel comforted, I might break down. And when you're trying to remain strong throughout the process, of course, feeling that emotional support can sometimes break you when you're trying to be strong.
So how were you able to communicate that with the people that you loved, that you either wanted more or needed not to have that in the moment because you needed to be strong? How were you able to communicate that, or what would you suggest others for their communication process?
I'm a big believer in really just honest, forthcoming communication. And there were times, yes, when a friend would offer a hug and I'd say, not right now, and say thank you, but not right now. I'm not up for it. And I think it's important for cancer patients to know too that sometimes they might not just feel like it physically because perhaps they're nauseated from treatment. And it's okay to say, I'm not feeling well enough to be close to somebody. Because sometimes when you're going through treatment, you are nauseated and you're sensitive to smells, and maybe somebody just drank coffee and that smell makes you nauseated. So you want to keep away from people. So that honest communication of, I need to keep my distance right now because I'm not feeling well, but thank you. And, communicating, of course, thank you, I appreciate your support, but I don't feel well enough right now. And there were also times when I really needed a hug. And people were so cautious because I had been through so many surgeries. And I think it's a good idea to add humor to the situation and maybe say something like, you know what, I'm not going to break. You can give me a real hug. or give me a hug like you mean it.
Yeah.
And adding a little bit of humor, but letting them know it's okay to hug me, rather than, the kind of hugs like we're doing now during COVID, the air hugs.
Right.
I think a lot of us right now are craving those really deep, thoughtful hugs.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate now to get those from my children, but I know there's people living alone that don't. And there's a lot of parallels between what people are going through now with the pandemic and what cancer patients go through. That isolation, that fear, and particularly people that are living alone and not feeling that physical touch. And it all boils down to communication.
So as someone who might be visiting, like for example, my dad's dealing with cancer right now. And I know a lot of us have friends, family member, they're dealing with cancer, some kind of really intense illness. How can we be proactive to help support the patient? Right? So how can we ask, what would you have liked to hear? Because I would have to imagine that as the patient, that be always the one communicating or setting boundaries can be a little challenging itself, right?
Right, for sure. And to have, I appreciate what you're saying, because to have the family or friend step up is such a relief, because oftentimes the cancer patient feels that so much is on them. And again, coming back to the communication piece and saying, if you're talking about hugs during normal times, not during COVID, or perhaps if it's a close family member, even during this time, simply saying, I care about you. I want to show my love and concern, and I'd love to give you a hug. Are you okay with it? Or perhaps it's even, do you feel up for it? Because that would actually give them a little bit of an out, if they're at that emotional breaking point and they don't maybe want to reveal it. Saying, are you feeling up for it? Maybe gives them a little bit of out and saying, I'm maybe having some pain right now, that sort of thing. So many chemo treatments can cause physical pain as a side effect. And, that's another area where a cancer patient could say, I'm just not feeling up for it. It gives them a little bit of out. So as the family or friend member, really just saying, I love you. I want to support you. I want to hug you, but I want to respect your boundaries.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about it?
And it seems to go beyond touch as well. I mean, I think we had the conversation of, instead of saying, hey, call me if there's anything I can do, right? The cancer patient, once again, doesn't want that all put on them. So how can you reach out and say, let me help you in this way? Would you like help in that way? Would you like a hug? Would you like support?
Yes, it's being very specific. That's what's really helpful to the cancer patient, is being very specific and using your talents. If you're not a hugger, maybe even just placing a hand on a shoulder. And as you're saying, I love you and I support you, placing that hand on the shoulder and letting them feel that human connection. Because I feel like the emotional support is going to support the physical healing. When a person feels supported emotionally from their friends and family, it's going to help their physical healing. And you're right, when people make offers, it's so important to be specific and use your talents. I've had people say to me, I don't cook, but I can do laundry. So if you want me to come and pick up laundry and take it away and wash and fold your clothes and bring them back, I'll do that. So thinking about what your talents are and then making that specific offer is helpful.
That's great. That's a really great idea. Thank you. Any other kind of closing ideas, especially around physical contact or your experience? Any stories that you want to share about maybe when contact supported you during these processes?
Yeah, a couple of quick stories and then I'll wrap it up. The very first time I met my oncologist, I, of course, was very freaked out. I had, at that point, I knew that I had cancer. I didn't know much about it. And I met my oncologist, and as I'm sitting there, he held my hand. And it just cemented for me that this person, I wasn't just a number, I was a person, and he cared about me. And that was very reassuring. And another quick story I have for you is during the diagnosis phase. After I'd met my oncologist, I had to go through what's called a PET scan, very familiar to cancer patients, and that you have to drink some radioactive dye in order to do the PET scan. And essentially, they're looking for cancer in other areas of the body. And after the test, you cannot be near other people essentially for the rest of the day. You have to stay at least 3 to 4 feet from other people. And that was really, really hard for my family, my children, because as I said, we're huggers. So it just speaks to me to how important the hugging and the touch is, because after going through a traumatic experience, that's what I wanted the most. Yeah, and that just speaks to it. The last thing I want to say to wrap this up is that an understanding that this is a really big emotional roller coaster for not just the patient, but also family and friends, of course. And knowing that it's a roller coaster, knowing that the touch is going to vary throughout the entire treatment process is really important. You know, at some stages, the person may really be craving touch, and at other phases, the person may be in too much pain or not feeling well enough to want it. And just because the patient says at one point, I'm not up for it, don't let that stop you from asking again.
That's great advice. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Katherine. I appreciate it. So anybody that wants to get a hold of Katherine, I'll have all of her links and her information below. But once again, she's with Inspired Vitality in Minnesota. Her website is inspiredvitality.life. Or you can always contact me, Dawn Bennett, at Touch Remedies. And thanks again. Oh, did I tell you? My book's being released now. September 1st, 2020 is when we got our launch date. So
congratulations.
Yes, thank you. We're very excited. I'm very excited.
So happy for you. And I'm so grateful for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. I think this will help a lot of people. All right. Have a lovely day, Katherine.
Thank you. You too. Take care.